Zambia's Luangwa Valley, one of Africa's great wild places. Life here experiences two seasons, vastly different. The wet and the dry. And the dry season here is one of the toughest imaginable. Almost 7 months with barely any rain and rising temperatures. Animals have to cope with vanishing waterholes and blistering heat. This year is harsher than ever. Global weather changes are disrupting seasons everywhere. Creatures large and small clash in competition for food and space. Each day, it gets harder to survive. But there are winners too. The dry season provides a bounty for those ready to exploit it. "25,000 hippos call the Luangwa River home. The largest population of hippos anywhere in the world. Groups known as pods spread out along the river. It's still deep enough for them to comfortably submerge, and for now there's plenty of space to stay out of each other's way. They constantly communicate. Honking calls set off a string of conversation, called a chorus chain, that travels all the way along the river. It's a way of amicably letting other hippos know who's who and where pod boundaries lie. A dominant male, known as a beachmaster. He's over 20 years old and controls a territory along 100 meters of this river. His pod is made up of about 30 hippos, mostly females and young. And a few younger males who he tolerates, as long as they're no competition. The youngest member of the pod is a month-old calf. She weighed nearly 45 kilos at birth, and on her diet of rich milk, she's growing fast. But she's been born at a tough time of year. The valley is drying, her river sanctuary shrinking. It's mid-July. It hasn't rained for 2 months. The dry season has set in, but it's yet to take its iron grip. Over 700 kilometers long and 100 kilometers wide, the Luangwa Valley in Zambia is the tail end of Africa's Great Rift Valley. What makes it so special is its patchwork of habitats. Fertile grasslands are flanked by shady woodlands and dotted with lush lagoons. It's an intricate network of neighborhoods, providing homes for an incredible variety of life. At the heart of it all is the Luangwa River. one of the largest undammed rivers in all of Africa. It's a lifeline in the valley. At this time of year, the river is already half its wet season size. In a drying landscape, it draws animals from miles around. Hundreds of species depend on it for their survival. Every dry season here is harsh. It can be 7 months, from May to November, with practically no rain and soaring temperatures. But this year, the drought is even more extreme than usual. It's an El Niño year. This global weather phenomenon is triggered by changes in warm water currents in the Pacific Ocean. Its far-reaching effects span the planet, and in Africa, they can intensify dry conditions. The Luangwa River meanders dramatically. As it snakes through the valley, soft sand is eroded from the outer edge of a bank and deposited on the inside. Over time, these big bends get cut off, leaving oxbow lakes, an echo of the river's old course. These lagoons are oases of life, and one of the reasons the Luangwa Valley has such an abundance of wildlife. Some lagoons have already dried up, but this one is big, nearly 1 kilometer long. And there's still plenty of water here. Nile cabbage grows all over Africa's wetlands. It's one of the most prolific water plants in the world. It floats on the surface, its roots dangling in the depths below. It's a haven for aquatic insects. Larvae live among the submerged roots, and adult flea beetles emerge in their thousands to feed on the succulent leaves. They, in turn, feed hundreds of birds. Jacanas have, proportionally, the longest toes of any bird in the world. Nearly 20 centimeters tip to tip, front to back. 2/3 of its body length. They spread the bird's weight as it tiptoes across the carpet of vegetation without sinking. Jacanas cannot delve deep with their short beaks, but they've learnt to take advantage of another lagoon resident. A hippo is a mobile feeding station. Vegetation lifted out of the water gives jacanas access to invertebrates hidden in the root system they otherwise couldn't reach. And the hippo doesn't seem to mind having hitchhikers. This hippo is an old bull. He's living the quiet life away from the noise and commotion of the main pods in the river. But his lagoon won't last forever. It's the end of July, and midday temperatures are beginning to creep above 25 degrees Celsius. More water evaporates every day. Now it's still deep enough to submerge in, but the hippo will eventually be forced to move. Many of the valley's plains are old, silted-up lagoons. Formed when the course of the river has changed, they're a testament to the dynamic landscape. The soil here is fertile, washed down from volcanic hills in the north, and nutritious grass feeds hundreds of mouths. Puku and impala have small mouths and flexible lips that are perfectly suited to nibbling short grass. But they don't have the plains to themselves. Grass makes up half a baboon's diet, but they feed very differently from antelope. They use dexterous fingers to pick stems and pull up rhizomes. Baboons and antelopes compete for resources, but the extra eyes and ears make sharing worthwhile. So many grazers attract hungry predators. But baboons have excellent eyesight and the ability to get a good vantage point up a tree. And antelope have acute hearing and a strong sense of smell. Between them, they've got the bases covered. All benefit from each other's alarm calls. A lion on patrol has no hope of an ambush once the bush telegraph begins. Even Africa's giants make use of the fertile plains. The tip of an elephant's trunk is as sensitive as a human finger. Picking grass a blade at a time is a slow way of collecting the 130 kilos of food they'll need to eat in a day. But in the dry season, every little helps. This calf is only 2 years old, but already he's walked hundreds of kilometers. An elephant herd must keep moving. If they stay in one place for too long, they'll annihilate their food supply. The valley's woodlands are made up of over 300 species of trees, all with their own strategies to survive the crippling dry season. Groves of ebony trees are never far from the river. Their long roots tapping into the groundwater. The small surface area of an acacia tree's tiny leaflets helps minimize moisture loss so they can grow further from water. But the most striking adaptation is found in a Mopani forest. Every year it transforms into an autumnal wonderland. It's the beginning of August, still early in the dry season. But this woodland is several kilometers from the river. Water is scarce. Each Mopani tree cuts off the supply of moisture and nutrients to its leaves. Without the green pigment chlorophyll, leaves turn golden and drop, just like a northern hemisphere fall. The carpet of fallen leaves creates a whole new habitat on the forest floor. Patterns in the sand give their creator the sweet common name of doodlebug. But there's nothing cute about them. Less than half the size of your little fingernail, these insects are the larval form of a lacewing, and they are voracious predators. Huge pincer-like jaws are vicious weapons, perfect for grabbing prey. Their hunting prowess has given rise to their other common name, ant lions. Each of these miniature killers digs a tiny pit, about 5 centimeters deep. It's carefully constructed, so the sides are at a critical angle. They'll collapse at the slightest disturbance. All he needs to do now is wait. Ants are found in every habitat in the world except the poles. And here in the tropics can make up by weight as much as 25% of all animal life. There are plenty of them, and they're ideal prey. This ant's making a heroic bid for freedom. But it's not easy to escape an ant lion's cunning. Flicking sand destabilizes the pit wall. Injecting venom paralyzes its prey, and enzymes digest the ant from the inside out. The ant lion sucks its meal dry, as though drinking juice through a straw. And when it's done, it throws the empty carton away. But one man's trash is another man's treasure. White-browed sparrow weavers hoover up anything they can find in the leaf litter. From insects to seeds. They forage together in flocks, but at this time of year, food is harder to find, and they're getting increasingly intolerant of their neighbors. Squabbles are short-lived. These gregarious birds are a model of community living. In fact, they have one of the most unusual social systems in the bird world. When it's time to breed in a few months, an alpha pair will be the only birds in the group to lay eggs. The rest of the flock will help to rear the brood. It's a bit like a tiny wolf pack. Each sparrow weaver has its own nest for roosting in, but the whole gang helps build them all. Nests may look messy, but they're in a constant state of repair. A home improvement project that is never quite finished. All the nests are on the same side of a tree, a carefully selected position so they get the right amount of morning sun and are sufficiently sheltered from the wind. A double entrance is a security feature. In an emergency, you can always nip out the back door. It's now the end of August. 4 months of unrelenting dry. In the river, it's getting harder for the hippo pod to find water deep enough to submerge. Their exposed backs are too much for oxpeckers to resist. These little birds eat anything they can glean from a host mammal. Ticks, earwax, dead skin. Having parasites removed does the hippos a favor, but oxpeckers don't stop there. They intentionally keep wounds open, feeding on living flesh. When the pecking gets too much, you have to master the art of the tail flick.